Hi, welcome to Everbox Guitar Tuition. So I've got another classic album inspection for you. And this is one of my real favourite sort of cult hard rock metal albums of the 80s. Released July 21st, 1987, just checking there. So it's 35 years old today, and it's Dangerous Attraction by Line. So it's not strictly their debut, they actually did an EP before this, the Power Love EP, and they did the title song for the Transformers animated film, which is a really cool track. Now, in actual fact, the Transformers track is a bonus track on the Japanese edition of this album. But when it originally came out on Scotti Brothers Records, it had 9 tracks. So Scotti Brothers, not sure what big label they're affiliated with, might have been CBS Columbia, but the only band I can think of that was vaguely rock would be Survivor. So I'm just moving this a bit. So the album now is probably of interest for 2 reasons. Kyle Swan was the singer. So Kyle Swan was the singer of Titan, New Wobbin band. They were sort of formed, I think, from the ashes of Angel Witch by the bass player. Kevin Ridley, was it? That was probably the wrong name, so don't quote me on that. So he had a good melodic voice. Difficult to say whether they're proper sort of New Wobbin, kind of second wave of New Wobbin. But Kyle Swan's got a cool kind of thick bluesy Coverdale voice, but a lot of power with a bit of metal. Bass was Jerry Best, and on drums was Mark Edwards, really solid drummer. He played in Steeler, I think. Sadly, he had a motorbike accident, motocrossing, and broke his neck, and that meant he couldn't play drums again. I don't think he was paralysed or anything, I'm not sure. I tried reading up about it, and I think he might do something else now. But that's actually precipitated the end of the band. But perhaps more of interest to people on guitar was Doug Aldrich. So this was the first time I heard Doug Aldrich. And the first time I heard a track off this was on the ubiquitous, you obviously often hear me mention this, Friday Rock Show. So Friday Rock Show is a British radio show on a Friday night, 9 till 12, done by a DJ called Tommy Vance. And he would play new release stuff, and they played a track called Hard and Heavy. And I really love the guitar solo. It's one of my favourite Doug solos, so I thought I'm getting that album. It maybe came out in the UK sometime after July. I'm not sure. I kind of got a vague recollection of me buying it in the back end of 87, early 88, so I'm not sure there, but I bought it from my local record shop, which I've probably mentioned before, Area Records in Lancaster. So it opens with Fatal Attraction, sort of the title track, but taking the title from the film. This is 4 minutes and 18, so this is written by Kyle Swan and Doug Aldrich. It's a great opener. It's in the key of F sharp. It's got a cool chord that Doug likes to use, an F sharp minor 11 open chord with a fretted note. It's got a grinding riff. The first thing you notice on this, this has got big production, but it doesn't fall into the sort of trap of other 80s production of being too polished. Because the band's probably on not a low budget but a medium budget, it actually benefits from being a bit rawer. The guitars are really huge on this, and I was listening to it just today, and my feeling was, has Doug Aldrich tracked the guitars 4 times? So what I mean, he's done them either side and done them either side again. I think he might have done, because they're pretty humongous. Bass is tight, and then it's got one of those big drum sounds you get in the 80s, but it's not too over the top. And it's a really straight ahead song. You've just got your bass, drums, guitar, lead vocal, solo, and then probably a couple of vocal harmonies type of thing on the chorus. Really great track. Good dynamics, breaks down after the solo. They quite like to do that line. They'll do the verse, bridge, chorus structure, guitar solo, or maybe a mid-late pre-solo, and they'll break down to a sort of version of the verse afterwards. Great guitar solo by Doug. Does a great sort of spin on the classic kind of Gary Moore type of lick at the climax. And for me, he didn't really get the recognition at the time he deserved, but this is one of the best sort of straight ahead 80s rock performances for me. So next up's Armed and Dangerous. This is again Kyle Swan and Doug Aldrich's composition, 3 minutes 39. Again, this is a little tempo change, a little slow, but of a great sort of big riff in here with some nice inverted chords. I should tell you the lyrics are totally cliched on this album. Armed and Dangerous, are you ready tonight? I'm on fire tonight, or some of the lyrics go like. But they've got big hooks. They really know how to write songs. These guys. I'm guessing Kyle Swan's learned a bit of his craft in Tyrant, and the demo process has helped them. This is a really good track. Another cool Doug solo, and again it breaks down after the solo, and he does some lovely bluesy stuff. It shows a real maturity. I think at this time Doug's about 22, 23. Kyle Swan's probably a little older. I think Mark Edwards was looking up to 20, 5, something like that. Not all Jerry Best was. So they'd probably been around in bands, but had enough maturity to write some cool songs. Next up's Carl Swan on composition, Hard and Heavy. So he obviously plays guitar, Carl Swan, as well. And you can tell for the riffs more basic on this. Again, it's an F sharp, and it uses that classic thing where you play the quarter notes on the bass, dum, dum, dum. So it's kind of slow and ploddy, but I really like it. But the chorus goes hard and heavy. You know, it's you can knock the titles of the songs, but they lend themselves to anthemic choruses. They've all got anthemic titles, and you know, the right amount of syllables and shape of the words are good for good choruses. Fantastic solos, as I previously mentioned on this. When I was younger, I was in sixth form at school. I only stayed a year. It wasn't very good, and some various situations going on, and I would go and listen to this on my Walkman. I'd go in where the sixth form common room was, as you call it. There was a building you could go right up into the kind of, not the attic, but the top floor, and you know, you wouldn't get bothered there, and you could stay away from any teachers and that. No one was up there, and I'd just pace around the room listening to Doug's guitar solo on a loop. I would just rewind it and probably wreck my batteries. Next up's Never Surrender. This is from 33 again, really anthemic, cliche title like Saxon. Obviously it wasn't cliche when Saxon did it. It's Cal and Doug writing, but it's got a really meaty riff, you know, Doug pumping it out, probably key of E, something like that. Really cool solo, does a little kind of diminished 7 or some arpeggio, maybe, yeah, it is a diminished 7 really at the end, so kind of tapping into the Randy Rhoads thing, but really cool, kind of puts his own spin on it. That's the thing with Doug. I mean, he's got the kind of DeMartini, George Lynch bluesy thing, fiery pinch harmonics, but the style of his vibrato and the way he kind of bends his quick runs, puts those little bends in and stuff. You know, he just sounds like Doug instantly. So that's another great track. And then side 1 of the original vinyl finishes with Death on Legs, more metal misogyny. 4 minutes 13 again. This is a really catchy track. It's got a big chorus, kind of more sleazy rock, but very good structure. It's got a great bridge on this actually, and then builds into the chorus. Another cool solo from Doug. You know, probably the weakest solo on this side, but still good. Kind of more of a Mixolydian vibe, and the song's in a kind of Mixolydian mode. Just a really strong side. I mean, if people were hearing it now, you'd say, and it was cliche, the lyrics and the kind of titles, and it was cliched at the time, but I think, like I said, the raw production, it's hard rock, but it's kind of heavier because it's got that type of production. There's kind of a cross between the polish you'd get on something like Rap, but the kind of more rawness you'd get from, say, a Shrapnel album, but not horrible. It kind of finds a balance, and it's not dated in a way that some other albums of this time has. Actually, band produced it themselves, and I'm just looking here, who's the guy? A guy called Bill Freesh was the engineer and recorded at Santa Monica Sound Recorders. So I don't know how many weeks they took. I think I read up, someone had put on a thread about them doing backing vocals. This was another musician. Side 2 opens with Power Love, so this was a single. There's a video for this you can see. Again, really cool riff, nice riff in E, using some nice kind of dyad fourths, inverted fifths to major thirds. It's got a cool chorus, and then, you know, cool solo, another really cracking track. And then you've got like the sort of album's more epic cut, In the Name of Love. So this is 6 minutes 17. So this is a kind of, starts off power ballad, and it's got drop down verses. But it's a really good song. Again, cheesy lyric, but it shows off Carl Swan's vocal prowess. He does a lot of emoting. He does a really cool metal scream on it. But he's classy, you know, he's a very classy singer, Swan. And it's got a good dramatic structure, like I said. It's got good use of keyboards, so like a lot of bands back then, you know, they're slipping in keyboards into the mix just to kind of add another dimension, smooth off, a bit of commercial polish, but it's really well done. Really cool solo from Doug, and it's a really good track. So off the bat, you know, you got 7 really good tracks that just don't really dip for me. Some are better than others, but you can put on any one of those, and for me, I'd be like, oh, great. I think the last 2 tracks aren't quite as good, but they are decent. And you got After the Fire, which is stronger than the last one. It's got a nice harmony intro. Just looking at some notes here. There's a nice clean bit post solo again. Like I mentioned before, I like to break down. It's good. Yeah, it kind of goes up the classic cliche key change up a tone at the end, but it's a good tune. It's well crafted. And then they Shout It Out as the last track. It's a kind of end of album metal anthem with a major type of chorus, more harmony guitars. This is definitely the weakest track now, but I quite like it. I mean, and it's quite good if you listen to the fade out solo, and it's right at the end, right as it's fading out, as you get on some of these albums. Doug does something really quirky he doesn't normally do, because a really nice kind of chromaticism. So if you just listen out and turn the volume up. But there's not really much more to say about this album. Like I say, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. It's an album like, I was talking a few months back about the Project Driver album. It's an album I kind of like more every time I listen to it. I don't know, it's not a question of finding something new, I just kind of hear it in a different way. And I think it's cracking. I think Doug's playing stands, although it's not the kind of game-changing level of Malmsteen at this time, or Lynch, or Vi, Satriani, Halen. It's still of a level of other players, DeMartini players like that. And once I heard this album, Doug Aldrich was firmly ensconced in my top 6 or 7 guitar players. He's remained there ever since. So, after this, Line did Trouble in Angel City album, and that was on Grand Slam Records, so I lost the major deal because this didn't sell that great. That's a good album, kind of 6, 7 out of 10. It's not as good as this, not as well produced. Some really good songs, some great solos, of course. Then they split. Doug went to Hurricane. We'll do a review of that on later on, when it's time. And then they formed Bad Moon Rising, and the 3 Bad Moon Rising albums are kind of, again, it's a kind of cliched metal. They're kind of out of their time really by then, because the 91, 92 and 91, 92, 93, 95. But they're decent records. There's some great guitar playing, great singing, some good songwriting. First album's a good 7 out of 10. And then the third album's kind of more toying with the kind of 90s sound. But it's actually, when I listened to it recently, I kind of got into it more. He's got some really strong writing, more maturity in the writing, an attempt to try and move with the times lyrically. And actually, Carl Swan pulls it off with some better quality lyrics instead of the kind of cop rock lyrics he was doing. So, although Doug doesn't play a shreddy guitar as much, obviously fitting with the times, it is a good record. So Bad Moon Rising is worth checking out, and then Doug did Burning Rain after that, which is kind of like Bad Moon Rising but with a different singer. It's not as good, but it's still got some good stuff. Of course, he went to Dio, and obviously we know him better now. Don't know what happened to Carl Swan after Bad Moon Rising. I'm guessing he went into another line of work, and who could blame him? He'd probably been rocking 15 years. And although he'd had some success, he probably never got that, got that breakout. Okay. So that is Lion, Dangerous Attraction, 35 years old today. Thanks for checking out. Cheers.